It's not just drop balls, it's missed throws, it's inaccurate throws. It's a lot of things that we just were not sharp at.
The quarterback draw. Newton cuts left and gets hit at the 1 foot line. He was going to try to coast in. He paid a heavy penalty. He got laced.
He got hit in the head.
All I know is they took him in to examine him, and I purposely didn't ask, so I didn't have to answer the question.
Wings in right, back shoulder cut, touchdown from Prescott to Williams.
The kind of team we want to build, down 14-0. Guys, we're going to respond the right way.
Looks right, fires right, caught by McCoy at the 5, headed into the end zone, touchdown.
God, it feels good to finally win here. Been close about 6 times. Finally won one. It was great. It was a damn good weekend, and I appreciate it.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Welcome into another week of First Take. Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, I'm Molly Karam. How you doing, guys?
How you doing?
I'm good.
Everybody all right?
Yeah, had a great weekend. Ready to go. Yes, yes. Happy New Year.
Yes, let's go.
Let's get into it. You know who's smiling today? Bills Mafia. Buffalo took advantage of a New England team who was down to their third-string quarterback, handing the Patriots their first home shutout loss at Gillette Stadium ever, winning 16-0. The rookie, Jacoby Brissett, made a second consecutive start in place of Jimmy Garoppolo and was sacked 3 times. It was Buffalo's second win in its last 16 visits to Foxborough, something Stephen A. didn't see coming on Friday.
This week against Bill Belichick, Rex Ryan doesn't have a shot. I think their coaching is an issue. I'm talking about Rex Ryan. You're 4-11 against Belichick. I would be shocked if they beat the Patriots, even with the Patriots' issues. I think the jury is out on Rex Ryan as to whether or not he should even be a head coach in this league. If you can't beat a third-string quarterback, I don't know if you should be allowed to go into week 5.
Excuse me, Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Did you just hear that?
Yeah, I heard that.
Do you owe someone an apology? Do you have something to say?
Apology to Rex Ryan?
Yeah.
Hell no. Hell no. Hell to the no. I will not apologize. Rex Ryan did a good job yesterday. They stepped up against a third-string. They stepped up against a third-string quarterback. And you know what? Listen, I got somebody getting some chocolate chip cookies. I'll send it to Rex Ryan and the Buffalo Bills. Congratulations to you. You finally won a game in Foxborough. Nothing but respect to you. But here's the reality of the situation. Okay, I didn't give Rex Ryan a chance. It wasn't because of the New England Patriots. It wasn't even because of the greatness of Bill Belichick. I didn't give the Buffalo Bills a chance because of the continuous ineptitude of Rex Ryan and his coaching. The fact of the matter is everything that I said, you know, as far as I'm concerned, is true. It's been 5+ years since this man has coached the team into the playoffs. He's made more headlines than he's registered victories. He hasn't gotten it done. And this is the sad part. I think the game of football is great when Rex Ryan is winning football games because I love his moxie. I love his bravado. I love the fact that he can be loquacious and outspoken and he can really go after folks. I think that's great for the game of football. I think that's great for competition. But at the same time, you know, everything gets ruined when his team step out on the field and aren't able to get it done. Now, yesterday was more a product of bad New England Patriots as far as I'm concerned. What is this here? 1 for 12 on third downs, getting into the red zone once, Brissett fumbling the football, the receivers unable to get open. I'm sorry. Rex Ryan and the Buffalo Bills defense hasn't really given us a reason to be enthusiastic about them this year. They're 2-2 for a reason, okay?
Is that so?
The way I look at it, I know that Rex Ryan can coach defense. Yep. I really, really do. But I'm thinking about what has happened to Buffalo since he's arrived. And my thing is, walking into this game, clearly I look like a fool right now because I gave them no chance, and you can never not give an NFL team a chance. But that's how I felt. I'm honest about what I feel, Max Kellerman.
What are you suggesting?
I don't hedge my bets, Max Kellerman. I don't do. I actually take a side.
Diversion
the
here.
wrong one, as it turns out.
That's okay. That's okay. This is called big boy rules. You have to sit there and eat it. On this particular Monday, the crow tastes nasty, but on this particular Monday, okay, I happen to be wrong. So what? I guarantee you I'm going to be right a hell of a lot more than I am wrong when it comes to Rex Ryan. And I actually want the man to win football games. But I have grown disgusted with the level of ineptitude that this man has continuously put forth over the last 5 years. Can't even get an above 500 record. That is why I will not apologize. That is why I will not take back what I said. You got me on this Monday. let's see what happens in the weeks to come. Because it's not going to be the last time I say that.
He's been a head coach for 8 years. The first 2 years, they made the AFC Championship game, and that's bought him a lot of rope.
Yep.
And he's won four. He's half the time gotten to the playoffs, just not recently. Here's the bottom line: when you make projections on a team and you make evaluations of a team early in the season with these very small sample sizes, stuff like this can happen. We assume the Bills are terrible. We assume Rex Ryan must be on the hot seat. What happened to the defense? I thought they were supposed to make strides. They're about to get killed at Foxborough. They're going to be 1-3. Then you take a closer look at it now with more evidence. Really, right around this time and really next week is when you can start to make real evaluations. A third of the season is over, or a quarter of the season is over. Rather, you're starting to get into the meat of the season. Look, their defense, they had one bad game this year. It was against the Jets at home on a short week. That can happen to teams on a short week early in the season, especially against an offense where, like the Jets, if it's clicking, things can go very well for them. Otherwise, a one-score loss on the road to the Ravens. They have wins against Arizona and New England. Now, you could say Arizona's a mess right now, and New England's playing with a third stringer, but New England was 3-0 and universally picked to win this game. And Arizona and New England both were two of the final 4 teams in the NFL playoffs as recently as last season. So those are good wins for Rex Ryan. And the losses, you can understand. A one-score loss to a one-loss team at this point, the Ravens on the road, and a bad defensive effort against the Jets. If you take that Jets effort out defensively, the Bills are second overall in defense, fewest points allowed. If you include it, they're still 6th. Think of how they got blown up, and they're still 6th overall. They are actually playing defense really well. And as it pertains to Rex Ryan and whether or not this team will play for him, the reason I thought the Bills had a shot primarily was he's a player's coach, and that's part of the problem. Not enough discipline, and the players think they get away with things and all that stuff. But it also pays dividends. It's not like everyone who's a player's coach.
Really? Really?
Yes,
Is that what you just said?
Yes. It's not like everyone who's a player's coach does poorly. There's a reason to be a player's coach, and here it is. If you feel your head coach is embattled and you like the guy, you're going to play for him. His team played for him. They beat the Patriots at Foxborough to pull 500. With wins against the Cardinals and the Patriots. That's a team that likes their coach. That's a team who play for the coach. And on the defensive side of the ball, I think, look, even with the Jets game, 6th overall, fewest points allowed. They're pretty good, Stephen A. That's a good defense.
Max Kellerman. I was getting ready to call the man Max Ryan for crying out loud. Max Kellerman, let me say this to you. Because, see, that situation, that diatribe you just went on, that soliloquy, rather, it's asinine. First of all, you said that Rex
the guy who said they had no shot.
That's right. No. Oh, you got me on one Monday.
Okay,
congratulations. You want a trophy?
One of many.
You want a trophy?
I wouldn't have a room for all the trophies if every time I got you.
Stop the nonsense. First of all, you said Rex Ryan has been successful half the time. I'm sorry, 2 out of 6 is half the time. I'm not the greatest math student in the world, but I think that's a third of the time. Meaning the first 2 years he was with the Jets, he went to the playoffs. He hasn't been there since. He hasn't been there since. That's number one. Number two, this guy inherited the Buffalo Bills job from Doug Marrone. They had 54 sacks one year. They come back the very next year, and they drop down to 21. Number three, there can't seem to be, he never gets both sides of the ball right. If the defense is elite, the offense doesn't show up. If the offense shows up, the defense doesn't. This is the problem. And then you talk to how players play for him. Well, with friends like those, who need enemies? Because if these players love you so much and your relationship with them and your ability to ingratiate yourself with them is what's going to maximize their potential, either they lack potential or that strategy doesn't work. Because the fact is that his success rate is not great. It just isn't. And so for me, when I look at that, I love the fact that he makes headlines. I love the fact that he's willing to talk. I love the fact that he's gung-ho and he's got that level of confidence. What I hate are the results he produces in the aftermath of all of that. That's my issue with Rex Ryan.
He's in the AFC East. He's coaching against the greatest coach ever.
But nobody's talking about
with the
him.
Jets and with
Wait
the
a minute. Nobody's talking about him just losing to the Patriots. Yes, Bill Belichick had his number, and I thought Bill Belichick would find a way to beat him yesterday, too. So I was wrong about that. But the flip side is that this guy doesn't make the playoffs. You don't have to win a division to make the playoffs. He's 5+ straight years. Coaches not only get fired because of that, Max, they don't find themselves getting other jobs because of it. He's making $5.5 million.
You're right. I misstated the way it's supposed. It's 4 playoff wins in 8 years. That's like a playoff win every other year, and he's a tick below average lifetime now. I think he's 56 and
56 and 60.
56 and 60. So he's inching to. So he's a tick below average. I would say it's fair to say Rex Ryan so far in his head coaching career is a tick below average head coach. Not a terrible head coach, not a great head coach. He falls in average range, and he's doing it in a conference, in a division where he's got to play Belichick twice a year, every year.
Forget the
His whole career.
Forget the Belichick.
It makes a difference.
No. What I'm saying is even if we refrain from holding Belichick against him, at the end of the day, 8-8, 6-10, 8-8, 4-12, 8-8, and now 2-2. It's the epitome of mediocrity.
Yeah, that means average.
I don't think that means average. I think mediocre is less than average.
8-8 is less than average by definition.
No. I said mediocre is less than average to me. On the NFL level, in order to get to the postseason, I mean, my goodness, to me, 9-7 is average. If you're making the playoffs, that's still average.
That's still average?
That's still average. That's still average.
By definition, that's above average.
Wait. That's the analyst in you, the analytic.
Yes, I like words to have meaning.
The analytic dude in you. What I'm saying to you is this: if you're 8-8, but you're missing the playoffs for 5 straight years, that's average. That's average. To miss the playoffs for 5 straight years.
The 5 straight years with no playoffs is bad. I would say most coaches in the AFC East are going to miss the playoffs if they're not named Bill Belichick, because he's in the playoffs every year.
What about the AFC North with the Cincinnati Bengals winning the division or what have you? The Steelers find a way to get to the playoffs. The Ravens, for the most part, find a way to get to the playoffs.
They're not in the division with the Pats.
What I'm saying to you is you don't have to win a division to make the playoffs.
And he's done it twice, by the way.
Twice in how many years?
Right. Therefore, is he quite average? If he would have snuck one playoff appearance in there since the AFC Championship games, back-to-back appearances, by the way, I would say he is average. He's Rex Ryan. Below.
This is Rex Ryan.
And by the way, the defense is good.
This is Rex Ryan, 8th season as a head coach.
Yes. 4
He's
playoff
made the
wins.
Playoffs twice.
4 playoffs.
That's average. No, he's made the playoffs twice.
And he just blanked.
He's made the twice.
He just blanked New England. At New England last week, we were asking, are they going to go undefeated?
Time out with their 3rd-string quarterback who was banged up. So, yes, he did go in and get a win in Foxborough, but we can't give the guy too much credit.
What did they do the week before that? The 2nd and 3rd-string quarterback were good enough that we were asking... Yeah. We were asking the country, are they going to go undefeated? A lot of people thought they would.
8th year, 2 playoff appearances.
But still, at the end of the day,
that's your definition of average. I appreciate that. Can I work for you? Can I work for you? I mean, that's your definition of average. Can I work for you? 2 playoff appearances and entering his 8th year. Come on.
4 playoff wins in 8
Stop it. I will not apologize.
Can we move on, gentlemen?
And a 500 record.
Can we all breathe together right now, a sigh of relief? Deflategate. It's finally over. After 624 days, and Tom Brady will make his anticipated return this upcoming week to face the Browns in Cleveland. Good luck for those Browns. What can we expect from Brady moving forward?
I got to admit this. We all know I'm a diehard Steelers fan. And we'll talk about them a little bit later. I'm scared as hell of Brady right now. I mean, this dude is on another level to begin with. But what I think he's going to do right now, as if this dude, who is clearly an ultra competitor, who is a 4-time Super Bowl champion, okay, who's been to 6 Super Bowls, as if he needed additional motivation. Could you imagine if the New England Patriots ended up going to the Super Bowl and winning it, and Roger Goodell had to give the Lombardi Trophy to the New England Patriots? I think the New England Patriots as an organization are the type of organization that would make sure, you know how the coach and the owners there, I think they'd move aside just so Tom Brady could stand there and Goodell had to give him the Lombardi Trophy. I mean, this is the kind of motivation that can really, really spark a dude. And Brady's one of those dudes who does not need it. And so for me, I found myself thinking the end of the Deflategate, and the first words out of my mouth was, uh-oh, it's a different day now. I mean, he's going to walk through the door one Patriot way, I believe, this morning. And it's going to be a scary sight to see because he has the assassin's mentality. He has that killer, that dog in him. And it's going to be a problem for a lot of teams, if not every team in the NFL. It wouldn't surprise me at all, even after missing 4 games, if Tom Brady threw for 4,000 yards over the next 12 games. I'm telling you, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if he threw for 4,000 yards over the next 12 games and the Patriots went 11-1. 11-1 over the next 12 games.
Without him.
Huh?
They went 3-1 without him.
We have a reason to be scared. All of us.
Especially if Gronk is healthy. I think Gronkowski is you look at Tom Brady and what he can do with Gronk on the field. You know, you take Gronk out and they're just a good team and they make the playoffs and maybe win a playoff game. You put Gronk on the team, they're instant Super Bowl contenders. I mean, Gronk makes Brady a lot better because Brady doesn't have to be perfect. Gronk catches everything. He's essentially always open. So Brady, who can be perfect, doesn't have to be perfect. Here's the thing. I told you before the season started, Tom Brady was going to fall off a cliff some point in the next 18 months. It's down about 15 or 16 months. That's exactly what's going to happen. Now, I don't think it's going to be in the first half of this season. It could be in the second half of the season, or it could be sometime before the middle of next year, but it will certainly, absolutely, take it to the bank, happen. He will fall off a cliff. Like every player who ever lived, who played quarterback at his age.
How about Tom Brady?
Tom Brady will fall off a cliff, and it might be this year. Well, here's the interesting thing. Here's the interesting thing.
Oh, my goodness. Go ahead.
The reason it's a cliff, and I describe it as a cliff, you know, like Roadrunner, me, with a little cloud of dust. The reason I describe it that way is because it's not a gradual decline. There are no signs of it. In fact, Brian Burke of Advanced Football Analytics did a study a couple of years ago. And, well, I mean, do you want to know, like, the thing about stats, I love it when people are like, oh, you're looking at the stats. You mean records of events? Yes, it's good to look at records of what actually happened. And what happened, what he found, was that quarterbacks of advanced years, who spent a long time in the league, 10-plus years, show virtually no sign of age-related decline until one day they just can't play anymore. So it's not like, oh, they're getting a little worse, little worse, little worse. You can see it coming. It's they're cruising along at a very high altitude, and then all of a sudden, poof, and that's going to happen to Tom Brady, just like it happens to everyone else and has happened to everyone else who has ever lived. He did have the 4 weeks off. That should help him. He does have Gronk. That should help him. He will be motivated. And even though he's always motivated, a little extra adrenaline at the right times, that should help him. It could sustain him maybe even through this season, although maybe not. But the Patriots have got to start preparing, and I think they have, for life without Tom Brady because it's coming way sooner than you expect. I do think he'll be good when he first gets back.
Once again,
so we better enjoy him now.
Once again, what you're saying is sacrilegious. It's blasphemous, okay?
Factual.
Because, you know, how is it factual? How is it factual?
Better enjoy the show because it's coming to an end.
It's not factual when it comes to Tom Brady because it has not happened. There's nothing definitive that you have seen from Tom Brady to justify the nonsense come out of your mouth.
You're not going to see it coming. It's a cliff.
Listen. Well, again, until it happens, it's not a fact.
I see.
Okay? And it's Tom Brady.
It's not Brett Favre,
there are
Johnny
exceptions.
Unitas,
There are
Peyton
exceptions.
Manning,
There are exceptions to the rule.
John
Did
Elway,
you see how
Dan
Brett
Marino.
Favre got carried off the field in that NFC Championship game against New Orleans? Okay, that hasn't happened to Tom Brady. He's never been beaten up like that. It's not like Brett Favre just sat up there and said woke up one day and there was a little extra dust collected on his birth certificate. No, there was immense punishment that he absorbed that contributed to his demise, falling off that cliff like the Roadrunner. Okay,
Steve Young.
Excuse me. Football back then, the quarterbacks weren't nearly as protected as they are today.
Manning.
Well, you're giving me incidences. I'm giving you facts myself, right?
So that's I'm just saying everyone who ever lived. Every person who ever lived.
Have the rules changed?
A little bit, yeah, as a matter of fact.
Is the quarterback more protected now than ever before?
Yes, they are.
Okay, then. So my point to you is all those names that you gave me was during a time when football, as it pertains to the quarterback and what he had to absorb, is significantly harder than it is now.
Well, Peyton Manning, who threw 50 touchdowns, 55 touchdown passes, and was going to throw more the next year before he got hurt.
I recall 4 neck surgeries. I recall him talking about how the hand was numb and how that was a challenge.
Brady hasn't taken any hits in his career, right?
Well, he's taken some, but come on now.
That's never going to show up?
Compared to old school?
Your argument is,
compared to old school?
What I'm saying is I've already established that or at least the Burke, I pointed to a study that said that quarterbacks with 10-plus years of experience
no.
Go ahead, write it down.
Because
it's important.
Where's my pen?
They show
I need to write that guy up. The analytics. What's his name again?
Ryan Burke. Advanced Football Analytics.
Ryan Burke. Ryan Burke.
This is 2014 study.
That's your homework tonight.
That's R-Y-A-N, correct? I'm sorry, is that
No, I don't
Burke?
think so.
Was that with an E? Is that with an E or just a B-U-R-K? What's the name?
The point is, unless
okay, what is that?
If
Go ahead.
you accept the idea, if you believe him, if you take him at his word, and when you think about it, it seems to be correct that quarterbacks with 10-plus years of experience show virtually no age-related decline, and then suddenly fall off the cliff, then what you're saying about Tom Brady is irrelevant. My point is he's not going to show you that decline. That's the point.
Okay.
Peyton Manning didn't show it either, even after the neck surgery.
Clarification purposes, because at the beginning of the year, you said within 18 months.
Yes.
Did I just hear you correctly when you said it may be this season?
It could, yeah, because that's within 18 months.
He said the second half of the season.
Yeah, probably.
So it could.
It could happen next week. It could happen by the middle of next year.
So 1 minute.
Yes.
So 1 minute we got. So a few weeks ago.
I'm giving you a time.
I'm sorry. So a few weeks ago we had 18 months.
Yeah.
All right, and then after that,
it's down about 15 or 16
Then after that, about 15, 16. You said that last week, and then now it's within the second half of this season.
Within.
And then with the last minute, it's within the last week. I mean, it could be the next week. Which one is it, Max Kellerman?
What do you not understand about within?
I'm just saying. I can't. I don't understand.
Rest of the season or next season.
Within this argument, I will win a lot of points.
Okay.
The point could be just now. It could be a point from now. But within our argument, I'm going to win a lot of points.
I got you. I see what you're saying. So it could be the next game, Molly. This is just a clarification. Because, I mean, you're the one that keeps us aligned. Okay. Here's the deal. So according to Max, I just want to make sure I heard him correctly. I'm asking you, Molly. So he's saying
second half of this season.
Hold on. But he just said it could happen next week.
It could be.
Or it could be next week. It could be next week.
Sure.
So Tom Brady could come back after chilling in Italy. Chilling out with Giselle. Going to Michigan.
Rested, a lot of time to prepare for the Browns.
Wait a minute. So it's going to be within a week. Or it's going to be the second half of the season. Or it's going to be within 18 months, which is now 15 to 16 months.
Answer this question.
Sure.
Is Tom Brady immune to the effects of aging?
No.
Or will he eventually get old?
You could.
He will eventually.
Okay. So since there will not be telltale signs of age, according to the advanced analytics, according to people who've looked at it, they say, well, you're not going to know, and you acknowledge that he is not immune to the effects of time, then you must acknowledge that he will fall off the cliff at some point. What makes you think he will be different than everyone who ever lived?
I got him. Because Max Kellerman, no one ever said he'll never get old. No one ever said that his time won't come to an end. The issue and the debate is as it specifically pertains to the timetable you put on it. Hold on.
Yes.
Let me say this.
Based on
Hold on. You said within the next 18 months.
Sure.
That's the debate. Don't sit up there and just throw a blanket over it and say, is anybody immune to age?
Right.
No. You said
what I'm saying
18 months.
Sure, and I said it a couple months ago. It's fewer than 18 months now.
15
and what you're saying is, the crux of your argument seems to be, he's showing no signs of decline. And the point is, he won't until he falls off the cliff. You have not addressed that, except to say that he's well protected, he's in an era where the passer is protected, he takes good care of himself. You could say the same thing about other guys. I mean, there are other great quarterbacks that you could say the same thing about. Even in this era, I mentioned Peyton Manning. You mentioned neck surgery. He came back and set the all-time touchdown record after neck surgery and showed no signs of decline.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is that's wear and tear based on the injuries, the surgeries, et cetera, et cetera. In Tom Brady's case, with no evidence of that whatsoever, you're simply saying that Father Time, nothing else, just the fact that he's 39, he turns 40 this August 3rd.
Could result in injury.
Hold on. No, because I don't care.
That's part of it.
Forget it. Good, because you're trying to change the argument, and you're not listening to me.
Age results in injury.
What I'm saying to you is this. If you're 25 years old, an injury could take you out. You have led us to believe that nothing could happen to Tom Brady injury-wise. Nothing.
What?
You know, let me finish. Nothing could happen to him. And just by mere virtue of the fact that he's going to be 40 on August 3rd, His days are numbered. You've given him 15 to 16 months.
In fact,
that's what you've led us to believe.
Injury is a large part of the risk of the climb.
Lord.
The other part of the risk, as it turns out, is natural variance in performance. But when your performance dips at an advanced age,
who doesn't know that?
You, along with everyone else, assumes its age, and the guy retires.
Who doesn't know that?
Listen,
if you get hurt, of course. But the point is, you said, Max Kellerman said, August 3rd is Tom Brady's 40th birthday.
Yep.
Right.
If this guy, just by mere virtue of the fact that he's turning 40, he's done
within
18
next
months.
year.
That's all.
Okay.
Sure.
So all I know is he's had time to prepare. He's rested. He's got a boulder on his shoulder. So we better enjoy him now, right?
Yes,
we better enjoy the show. He's got to come back strong and enjoy it because we're counting the days
So Tom Brady plays this year, doesn't get injured, just shows up every week. And what we're going to see, according to Max, within 15 to 16 months,
just get him.
Bam!
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Mimi.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Off the cliff.
Let's move on.
Don't bring me
Right up behind him. Mimi.
Okay.
All right. Coming up next.
Like everyone.
Concerns in Carolina as well. Cam Newton left Sunday's game with a concussion. We'll discuss the problems with the Panthers when First Take returns. Matty Ice tore up Carolina's defense on Sunday, passing for a team record 503 yards and 4 touchdowns. Julio Jones had 12 receptions for a Falcons record 300 yards. As Atlanta beat the Panthers 48-33 on Sunday and are sitting pretty first in the NFC South. The totals by Ryan and Jones are the most ever allowed by Carolina. Cam Newton, meanwhile, left the game in the fourth and was evaluated for concussion symptoms after taking a hit from Deion Jones on a successful 2-point run. Was this more about good Falcons or bad Panthers, Stephen A?
Well, to me, it was about the bad Panthers. And, I'll leave it to Max to discuss the Falcons because we know what a stud Julio Jones is. But let me be very, very clear about what I'm about to say. I will openly confess that it's an engagement in hyperbole. I'm being a little bit emotional at this point.
Okay.
Don't hold me to this next week. I'm only talking about what happened yesterday. Okay? This is one of those moments where if I'm the owner, Mr. Richardson, I go home and I go like this. Should I fire Sean McDermott, the defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers? I know Gettleman made a mistake in getting rid of Josh Norman. We're seeing the value of a Josh Norman right now because understand that Julio Jones didn't even have a 100-yard, day against Josh Norman during his time defending against him. I remember last year, Max, I was doing NFL Countdown. I had a small segment on the show every Sunday, and one of the things that I loved about it is just hanging out with the NFL guys, the Chris Carters, the great Tom Jackson, and others just getting their knowledge, Keyshawn Johnson, the whole crew just getting the knowledge from the fellas, not to mention the guys that would come in and visit the show. And last year, Thomas Davis and Josh Norman both came in together in studio. And Thomas Davis was sitting there telling me, yo, man, this dude, Josh Norman, right here. This is before I met Josh Norman. This dude right here, this brother's on another level. He said, look at Julio Jones' numbers and see what he does against this guy. Because we know what a stud Julio Jones is, but against this guy, blah, blah, blah. So you hear all of this. Josh Norman's gone. You play against Atlanta yesterday, and you have James Bradbury and Darryl Worley, rookie quarterbacks on Julio Jones? What drug are you on as a defense? If I'm the owner, that man is in my office this morning. I need you to explain to me why you had rookies on this dude right here. 12 receptions, 300 yards? I don't care how good Julio Jones is. That's defensive scheme right there. That's strategy right there that elevated his ability to do what we all know he can do anyway. That, to me, is what this comes down to. The secondary for the Carolina Panthers is clearly missing something. I believe it is Josh Norman. Certainly they've got other issues, you understand, offensively, particularly with protecting Cam Newton, who's gotten hit entirely too much. But even though I blame that concussion he suffered on him, lollygagging into the end zone like this ain't the NFL, and you can just stroll up in there like you pushing a stroller. So what the hell you think you doing? This is the NFL. That dude said, you ain't crossed the line of scrimmage yet. Let me put some wood on you. That's what happened. I blame that on Cam. But he has still been hit too much. He is not being protected well enough. That is a problem. Kelvin Benjamin, your number one receiver, he is a problem. But ultimately, it comes down to this secondary. I know that the Atlanta Falcons have been impressive, but this is more about bad Carolina Panthers than it was good Atlanta Falcons.
First, I want to address what you said about the Panthers, and I'm going to move on to the Falcons.
Sure.
The Panthers aren't protecting Cam to the extent that they have in the past. Still a lot better line than, say, like Andrew Luck is dealing with right now on the offensive line. But the offensive line can make you look good or bad, and right now they're making Cam look bad. His receivers are also making him look bad. They're not getting open. They're not getting open. So that's also making them look bad. The defense is making the absence of the front seven is making the absence of Josh Norman much more glaring. Look, Josh Norman's an excellent player. If you lose an excellent player, usually you get worse. Still, there are arguments for why you don't overpay an excellent player. I understand why they didn't do it, but I don't even think the secondary is the issue right now. The issue for the Panthers is they can't get pressure on the quarterback. That's going to expose your secondary. They're getting no pressure, that defense, vaunted defense, getting zero pressure. And so the secondary is being made to look worse than it really is. And in terms of strategy, it's not a matter of who you put on Julio. It's a matter of how many. If you put one on Julio Jones, he is going to torch you. There is no such thing as one by themselves you can put on Julio Jones. Same thing with Antonio Brown, which is why Odell Beckham Jr. must be looking at them like, oh, why won't anyone just single cover me all game? I mean, any of the other top receivers go for A.J. Green, any Des Bryant when he's healthy, put one guy on them, and they will get torched. I want to talk about Atlanta. First of all, Matt Ryan so far is having an MVP year. And yesterday he put distance between himself and the rest of the pack in terms of MVP stuff. Their offense is really high-powered. Stephen A., I would describe them as Steelers Junior. When you think about what they can do, they have an absolutely elite monster at the receiver position, Julio Jones, like Antonio Brown. They have an excellent quarterback, Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, and they have versatile backs who can catch passes and do a lot of things in Freeman and Coleman in their case, and obviously neither one of those guys is Le'Veon Bell, and the Steelers also have D'Angelo Williams, but they're kind of set up the same way. Their defense isn't good. Maybe the Steelers is better, especially against the run. But their offense is so overpowering, they have a chance against anyone. Their total offense, they have better than 80 yards a game, more, not than the average team, than the second best team in the league. 80 yards a game better than second best? Let me give you an example of what that means. 80 yards a game is how much better second best is from 27th best. The difference between Atlanta in total yards so far, very early in the season, and the second best team is the difference between the second best team and the 27th best team. The offense is ridiculous. They can smoke anybody. The only loss, you're talking about who they lose to. They have one loss on the season.
They lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to open the season.
Week one, which shows you, by the way, and even then they scored 24 points.
Preseason extension, though, a little.
Absolutely. This happens. A small sample sizes. It's troubling because you don't know what's going on. At the time, Jameis Winston's going to be the MVP this year, according to some, based on that performance. 3 touchdowns and a field goal is your worst, by far, offensive performance. This Falcons offense can do what they just did against just about anyone. And the fact of the matter is, Stephen A., they have this year. They've done it to everyone they've played. Panthers is the first defense that was supposed to be good that they played. But they did to the Panthers what they did to the Raiders, what they did to every team they played so far. That's a really good Falcons offense.
Well, it's a really good Falcons offense, but in order to be a good team, you got to be able to produce on both sides of the ball. They're 29th defensively. They're 30th in yards allowed. They're ranked second to last against the pass. And so when I think about that and I look at the 23 points that the Carolina Panthers were able to put up in the fourth quarter to make it interesting, to come back from a 31-10 deficit, to pull within 41-33 before Robert Alford intercepted Derek Anderson to end the game with his pick six, the reality is that on far too many occasions, as we look at this schedule coming up for the Atlanta Falcons, I think the jury is still out. I think that it's been by default their success thus far. I'm not saying that they can't score, because anytime you got Ryan, who's high second tier, along with Julio Jones, who may be the second best receiver in all of football, as far as I'm concerned, you have to give them their respect where it's due. But I also look at Carolina right now and the way that they've been struggling. They seem to be a shell of themselves right now. They don't seem to be in sync offensively. Defensively, their secondary is suspect. That wasn't the case last year, and that doesn't bode well for them. Getting back to Atlanta, let's look at who they have up next, Max. At Denver, at Seattle.
Two road games
Good litmus
come up.
test.
We're going to find out about them. San Diego, and then at home against Green Bay. And so 3 of their next 4 games was going to tell us a lot about the Atlanta Falcons, particularly when their defense is suspect against teams that could potentially put up points on them or neutralize them offensively. And we are going to find out. I'm not saying that they're not everything that people are projecting them to be. I'm saying the litmus test really arrives now, because the Carolina Panthers have been a shell of themselves. Don't bring me the Saints. I don't care that they won yesterday. Their defense has been highly suspect. It's all about Drew Brees. And, of course, the Oakland Raiders, which is the team we need to get into a little bit later, because obviously...
Real quick about Cam, by the way. Cam looks bad. He's holding the ball too... Not only is the offensive line not good, but it's especially now because the receivers are not open. Watch these receivers run routes. They're not open.
It doesn't
Benjamin was supposed to help with that. He's not open.
It doesn't make any sense, because they did what they did last year without Kelvin Benjamin. You get your #1 receiver back, and you look worse offensively. There is something wrong with the chemistry that is the Carolina. And the last
You're supposed to be hungrier after a Super Bowl loss, not have an NFC championship
last
hangover.
point I would like to make, too. Ron Rivera, I don't know if y'all have noticed, very nice guy. I really like him. Got a lot of respect for him. Did a fantastic job last year. Seems ultra moody, highly sensitive in a lot of different... Don't want to answer post-game questions, talking about how he didn't get any information on Cam specifically so he wouldn't have to answer questions to the media. They seem to be unraveling as an organization. This is not what we knew them to be last year. There's a level of stability that they had with Ron Rivera. I don't see that right now. I'm not saying they can't overcome it. They're too talented to be a finished product. But to put rookies on Julio Jones is nothing short of disrespectful.
One at a time, by the way.
Disrespectful.
Yeah. And maybe they're dealing with a lot more media with other issues, and that could also be
disrespectful.
playing a factor.
Julio Jones, rookies, 1 at a time.
500 yards for Matt Ryan through the air, 300 yards for Julio Jones.
It really was unbelievable.
He
that
went
offensive
on
effort.
Skype with my man Prime Time, Deion Sanders, last night, and was sitting there literally laughing at her. I guess they, I guess they didn't know who I was. I'm paraphrasing it. That's basically what he was saying. What are you thinking? If you are Sean McDermott, he would have some questions to answer.
I'm really excited that you brought up those 2 games, Denver and Seattle, though, to see what the Falcons do against those teams and kind of where they stand. What a weekend, though, guys, in college football. Unreal. We're going to break down the biggest games of the year so far. Clemson taking down Louisville. That is next. Stay here. First Take.
Down the middle of the field. Intercepted. Jordan Lewis with your exclamation point.
4 seconds to go. Game's on the line here. Fires long for the end zone. The caught by Tennessee. Tennessee wins! Jennings makes the catch in the end zone in the last play of the game. To the right, to the 10, pulls out of a tackle to the 5. Lamar scores!
Watson pitches it across the middle. Touchdown, Williams! Leggett rumbling free dead inside the 10, scores! Jackson flips it short, quick, spins out of bounds, did not get there. Marcus Edmond saves the game for Clemson.
It doesn't get any better. What a weekend we had in college football. How about Michigan cornerback Jordan Lewis with the one-handed pick against Wisconsin? Did you see that catch? Unreal, giving Odell Beckham Jr. a run for his money. Then this, Joshua Dobbs of Tennessee. Now, keep in mind, the Volunteers had already come back from double-digit deficits 3 times in the first 4 games. Then he does it again with the Hail Mary for the win over Georgia. And we saved the best for last. 2 Heisman candidates put on a show for the ages in Death Valley Saturday night in primetime. Clemson did just enough, rallying for 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns and stopping Lamar Jackson in Louisville a yard short on 4th down with 33 seconds left to hold on for a 42-36 victory. The Tigers 5-0 rallied behind Deshaun Watson's 5 touchdowns, the last 2 coming in the final 7 minutes minutes after Louisville, 4-1, wiped out an 18-point lead behind another Jackson performance. So with the win, here's how it looks. Clemson moved up 2 spots to number 3 in the AP poll behind Alabama and Ohio State, while Louisville slipped 4 spots to number 7. That game was incredible, gentlemen. Where does Clemson-Louisville rank amongst games for you, Stephen A?
Max Kellerman, Molly, I got to tell y'all, I think that's the best college football game I've seen since USC-Texas National Championship game.
No, you didn't.
Let me tell you something right now. I've seen a lot of great games, but if you want to take into account the whole game, that would be different. I'm just talking about the theater of it, the second half, being down 28-10. This dude, Lamar Jackson, this brother's special. He's on another level.
Whole special.
447 total yards, 295 passing, 162 rushing, QBR of 91. He was absolutely sensational in the second half. In the first half, I thought he was a little bit rattled. They did a good job getting some pressure on him, keeping him contained, not letting him get on outside the edges. They did all of that and then some. They were all over him, and they were pressuring him, and Louisville wasn't doing the greatest job in the world of protecting him. Not to mention the fact Clemson was getting a little bit dirty, okay, especially under the, in the pile when somebody looked like they were damn near trying to strangle him, for crying out loud. It was like, he got up, he was furious, and he should have been, because he was clearly being choked. And the guy was almost like the guy was trying to suffocate him. Having said all of that, I thought their coach did a great job of highlighting going into the half. We've got to stay composed. They've rattled us a little bit. We're getting a little bit too emotional. We need to calm down. They came out, and it was the Lamar Jackson show. No question about it. Now, Deshaun Watson showed up. Inaccurate with the long ball. Few interceptions, should not have been thrown, ill-advised passes. I was not impressed overall, in terms of seeing that from him, because I don't want to see that from him. After the greatness that I saw from him in the national championship game, I need to see Deshaun Watson playing better. But when it really counted, Mike Williams, 20-yard TD pass. Jordan Leggett, 31-yard TD pass, both from Watson in the last 7 minutes. When the game got tight, I saw that dude from the national championship game. The guy that sat up there and said, the moment has arrived. It is mine to take. Let me do what I do. And I thought that Deshaun Watson stepped up. Lamar Jackson didn't fold beneath that pressure. He responded to the challenge. That receiver, you got to try to get there. You got to fight for the first down. You got to fight for the first down. You can't. He didn't even fight for the first down.
I don't want to go at a kid, who made
That's right.
There was no first down marker, all that stuff. But you got to fight for it.
We agree with that because we want to be guarded when it comes to college kids.
Yeah.
But you got to fight for that first down. And it was almost like Lamar Jackson was just sick to his stomach, because it was almost like he said, damn, I should have kept it myself. I should have just kept it myself and found a way to do it myself rather than throw it to yourself, because you got to fight for that first down. But in the end, Deshaun Watson showed up. What did he have? He had 5 TDs, okay? He passed for 306 yards. He wasn't sacked one time. Lamar Jackson was sacked 5 times, which to me makes Lamar Jackson's performance even that much more impressive, because he was clearly under duress and still responded to the challenge. It was special to watch.
There's so much There's so much here I want to say.
And I watched Washington. I couldn't believe they stomped Stanford like that.
Right.
Stomped them on both sides. And Michigan, Wisconsin was impressive, too. And Tennessee, just a Hail Mary. But I'm not that impressed with Tennessee, even though they're undefeated. I'm just not.
Crazy finish.
There's so much to say. First of all, just Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson. One's 21, one's 19. Lamar Jackson's already better in, passing than he was last year. I expect by the time he's 20, 21 to be better than he is now. And he's still, by far and clearly, the only Heisman choice at this point in the season. He just put more distance between himself and everybody else with that performance, even in a loss. Before I say anything else, Jordan Lewis's catch. I just need to mention it.
Spectacular.
That's one of the best
Can we see that video again?
That's one of the best catches I've ever seen. Never mind the fact that it was an interception.
Yes.
It was an interception, but even if it wasn't, that's one of the best catches I've ever seen.
Look at this right here.
It's
look at
unbelievable.
What an interception. Look at this. I said, ooh.
And if you look, the angle shows he reached behind his body, fully laid out, one-handed catch.
How do you have control
Might be the best cornerback in football.
It's
in college football right now.
Unbelievable.
Might be. Unbelievable.
Also, I got to say I just wanted to give Jordan Lewis his props. I got to say about Lamar Jackson. He's one of the best runners with the football I've ever seen, college or pro. Like, think about the great runners. My dad used to tell me about Gale Sayers.
Bigger version
and
of Michael Vick.
You could see Gale Sayers in the clips. Oh, my God. O.J. Simpson, who people don't talk about anymore because for obvious reasons, but was an amazing runner of the ball. Michael Vick at the quarterback position.
Bigger version of Michael Vick to me.
By the way, Reggie Bush in college, Barry Sanders in the pros. Lamar Jackson has already established himself. He doesn't have the longevity, but when you think about the special runners you've seen holding the ball, you're going to think about Lamar Jackson so far. He has an ability. It's not like the cutting that you see from like a Barry Sanders, but he glides through defenders. It's unreal. And with the chips on the line, was making good passes in addition to running, driving them down the field. It's not his fault that his receiver didn't fight for the extra yard. I want to talk about Louisville. Louisville is in the last phase of becoming a truly great team, which is learning how to win on the road. And when people say that, it sounds so cliche and terrible. What does it mean? Well, like crowd noise on the road, and how does it affect you? They started the game, the first 10 minutes or so of the game, it wasn't just Clemson's defense, which was excellent. It was the fact that they had false starts that lost them field position and put them in bad situations, constantly long yards to make up. It affected the first 10 minutes of the game, and it affected the end of the game. Let's not forget another false start is the reason they didn't pick up the first down, if you assume that they would have picked up a couple yards on that next play, and ultimately the reason they lost the game. So that's what it means to learn to win on the road, and that's the final step they have to take. And Petrino's got to do it as a coach to beat a good team on the road and all that stuff. And yet, all that said, I still think Louisville can run the table. I still think they can win a national title. This is this early in the season on the road against Clemson in a game I really feel watching. They should have won that game. A shoulda, coulda, woulda, but they're a yard away from having a fresh set of downs in 33 seconds to punch it in from a couple of yards away. I think they would have. I mean, they got so close. They take that next step, and I think they can win the national title. And I'm talking about this year, Stephen A.
Well, you know me. Come on now. Roll Tide. I'm not fading from that at all, but I will concede this. Louisville has me wanting to see them in the national championship game against Alabama. I will admit that. You understand? I will.
Neutral field, they beat Clemson last night.
I understand that, but you can't go.
Or on Saturday, sorry.
But it doesn't matter because, you know, listen, during the regular season, you know what games you got on the road. And I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's what. And by the way, we need to step back for a second here. We talk about Nick Saban. We talk about Urban Meyer. Bobby Petrino can coach. Oof. I mean, this dude was at Louisville back, 2003 to 2006, went to Arkansas. We know he had the troubles there, went to Western Kentucky for 1 year, then comes back to Louisville. Bobby Petrino's record as a college coach is 104-40. This dude, I mean, he had his transgression off the field with the motorcycle and all of that other stuff.
I got one bone to pick with you. I got one bone to pick with you before we wrap this up. I got one bone to pick with you. The best game since Vince Young did his thing against SC. Stephen A. Smith.
It might be. I don't know.
Earlier in the same day, that Tennessee-Georgia ending could give that game a run for its money. Let's not forget, that was when two good defensive college football teams meet. It's a sloppy offensive game.
It's not as sexy a game.
You know what?
Okay, you want sexier?
Absolutely
you want
right.
sexier?
She's absolutely right.
How about the program? Fine. Because that was a sloppily played offensive game in the first half.
I'm conceding. I get where you're coming from. I'm not disagreeing with you.
You want higher stakes.
I'm saying, the higher.
Let me give you three.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
All from Auburn, 2013. Georgia, 4th and 18, 36 seconds left, 73-yard touchdown to win. The Iron Bowl versus Alabama, the Kick 6 game.
The Iron Bowl.
What about when they lost the national title that year to Florida State? There's 3 games from Auburn alone in 2013, I think, better than last night.
You're giving me score. I get that, and you're giving me those moments, and I get that too, because that Iron Bowl broke my heart because I picked Alabama to win that game, and then I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. A Kick 6, yes. I couldn't believe it. But again, the game itself.
The matchup of quarterbacks.
No, I mean, it wasn't, I mean,
that was something special.
Saturday night had everything, man. Yeah. Everything.
It was a great game.
Everything. See, for sure. And they put on a show.
And wouldn't mind seeing Clemson and Louisville in the Final Four with Alabama and maybe Ohio State. But I want Louisville versus Saban for the national championship on the line. That's what I want to see.
Be unreal.
That's what I want to see.
We will be there. Wednesday night, we'll have the NL wildcard game between the Giants and Mets on ESPN at 8 p.m. Eastern. It also will be streaming live on the ESPN app and Watch ESPN, so you can check it on the go. Sunday, playing without Dez Bryant, Ezekiel Elliott, the rookie, ran for 138 yards and a touchdown, and Dak Prescott, the rookie, threw for 245 yards and 2 scores to help Dallas overcome an early 14-point deficit to beat San Francisco 24-17 on Sunday. The Cowboys are now 3-1 without Tony Romo. Ryan Clark in the house. How are we doing?
Good. How are you guys?
We are good. I want to start
when you're here.
I tell you what,
Always.
I enjoy the thrilling college football talk. You guys got me pumped up, man. Shoot, I started reliving the game.
I want you to know, because I got some number of love for you, my brother. I got number of love.
Uh-oh, here it comes.
I want you to know that I'm really, really happy that you find something to be happy about when it comes to college football, considering what's going on.
Whoa!
LSU. Yeah, I'm just saying.
Every time I come on,
I know y'all won this weekend.
We look good
but I'm
now.
just saying,
You talking roll tide now.
Missouri.
You're talking roll tide. They're gonna have to see us.
Missouri.
Go Tigers.
They're gonna have to see us.
Really?
Yeah, really? Okay.
Really?
By the way, when we were arguing last week, people don't want football on Thursdays. Stop. We get it. Thursday, now the Friday night games, Saturday, Sunday, tonight. I love it. Love it.
I've still always been against Thursday night football. Always.
Not as a consumer.
I think
Unless you're working for
I think the NFL should be on Sundays and Mondays.
Safety-wise.
All right. All I know is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. A lot of days.
Well, Ryan, very good to have you. Can we talk about the Cowboys, gentlemen? No, it's all good.
Yeah.
I want to start with you, Stephen A. Is this solid start just a mirage?
No. Believe it or not, as much as I'm disgusted about that it's the Cowboys, I'm not going to call it a mirage. I mean, listen, the fact of the matter is that let's give credit where credit is due. Dez Bryant hasn't been 100% healthy. Tony Romo has been out. We understand that. We understand that Terrence Williams helped blow a game, all right, but he's made amends for it. But led by a rookie quarterback who was a 4th-round pick and a rookie running back in Ezekiel Elliott, who heard everybody like me telling them pump the brakes, perform. Don't sit there and talk about above average performance when you had a horrible first game and a subpar second game. Over the last 2 weeks, he's accumulated about 278 yards on the ground. He's been very, very impressive. When you take that into account and then you come and you look at Dallas's defense, which hasn't been porous. I mean, they have battled. I got to give respect where it's due. Okay, they've shown up, they've played, they're 3-1 after 4 games, rookie quarterback, rookie running back, offensive line. By the way, no surprise here, they are leading the league in first downs or on the ground. So they know who they are. One of the things that I religiously pointed out, and this absolutely disgusts me. I mean, I don't have any material this morning. I can't get on them the way that I normally would, because Dallas, the perpetual accident waiting to happen that they are, whatever their strength is, whatever that works for them, they'll get away from it. They're not doing that here. They know that running the football, moving the chains, engaging in ball control is their bread and butter, and that's what they're doing. And I got to give credit where it's due. Will it last? Remains to be seen. Right. But it doesn't mean that the first 4 games are a mirage. I can't say it's a mirage.
They're a mirage. First 4 games are a mirage. Look, last year we looked at Dallas Cowboys, at least I did coming into the season. I thought if the defense of certain guys that, had trouble off the field, that they could stay on the field and Dallas's risks paid off in terms of investing draft picks and money in them, they could have a good enough defense where that offense looked to me like it could be amazing. They could go all the way. It didn't happen, of course. But that was because their backup quarterback couldn't tread water. They couldn't tread water with their backup quarterback. Dak Prescott is good. I mean, so they're more than treading water. I get it. But so far, they've beaten Washington. They're okay. The Bears are terrible. And the Niners, playing their second-best quarterback, by the way, are terrible. They're a combined 4-8 on the season. In their power rankings, as I said, Washington, ESPN power rankings 20th, San Francisco 30th, Bears 31st. They're playing bad teams. The rest of the way, they have the 6th hardest schedule, according to ESPN. 6th hardest schedule. Things are going to change in a hurry. Look, they have a really good offensive line, and we knew that was going to be the case. Ezekiel Elliott, the defense is not that good. Ezekiel Elliott, I'm rooting for him. Even though I'm a Giants fan, I want to see him do well. I love the fact that in college, the bigger the stakes, the better he played. like a money player, boy. That's nothing like watching not only a good player, but a player with the chips on the line shows up. But what I've seen so far, Ryan, I got to tell you the truth, and I know he's fast on a stopwatch, right? But I haven't seen an explosive runner. I've seen a runner like before Navarro Bowman's injury, even yesterday, really wasn't getting much done against an okay, yes, he's on the road, but San Francisco's no great shakes. As soon as Bowman goes down, now Ezekiel Elliott gets his money. The week before, he ran a lot and ran pretty well and certainly accumulated a lot of yards. But so far, I don't see, I know he's like all world in yards right now. I don't see a stud running back there at the moment. I just don't see it. I want to see it, but I don't see it. You couple that with the fact that Dak Prescott's not going to not throw any interceptions the rest of the year as he's done so far. He's not going to be interception-proof.
Right.
And the fact that Dez is banged up, and the fact they played an easy schedule, coming up's a hard one. They're a mirage. I think they're going to finish last in the division.
Well, see, here's the thing. Both of you guys are technically right in some form or fashion. I agree with everything you said, Stephen A. If you look at this team, you can't necessarily say they're a mirage because what they've done is tangible. Dak Prescott hasn't turned the ball over. And going into the future, we know he will because that's part of playing the position. Ezekiel Elliott has run well in the last 2 games. But I agree with you, too. I was waiting to see more in the open field, to see somebody that can break the big play, as we saw him do against Alabama, as you saw him do against Oregon when the chips were down. But he's still getting those yards. And it's not a mirage because it's tangible. You know, when you're out in the desert and you need some water and you see out in the you look out, you see a big pool, a pond or something, you think you're going to dive in and get wet. It's not there. This is more like fool's gold, though.
Oh,
because
okay.
it's there.
I'll go with fool's gold.
Because it's there. It's tangible. We can touch it.
Like that analogy.
But as you said, though, they beat Washington. You know, you beat Chicago. Everybody, obviously, other than Detroit, can beat them. In San Francisco, when you have a Chip Kelly-type offense, your defense will fade in the 3rd and the 4th quarters. You also lose Navarro Bowman. But what these guys have done is real. But now it gets real because you have the Bengals coming up. You have the Bengals. Then you have on the road at the Packers. You play the Eagles. So now we get an opportunity to see this true and to see it tested. I believe as the future goes, this team will be very good. I think Dak Prescott is the real deal. I believe Ezekiel Elliott will be a really good running back in this league. We know about the offensive line. Obviously, you need to get Dez Bryant healthy. But what they've done to this point is impressive. So now we have to just pump the brakes and say, let's see what they do when they play against people
coming up, though, because the Browns is a win. The Browns is probably a win, and the Eagles is a rivalry game.
The next 3 we know, though. The next 3 we're sure about.
Let me chime in because I want to get y'all thoughts about this. This is just a belief that I have. Didn't play in the NFL. You did, so I'll defer to your expertise. Want yours, too. Here's what I'm thinking. Last year, the Dallas Cowboys were 4-12, all right? Mm-hmm. Still a top 10 running game. Mm-hmm. Year before, they were 12-4. Went to the playoffs, the catch that wasn't a catch, et cetera, et cetera. They had the number 2 running back in the number 2 running game in the NFL. Where are they right now? Number 2. So what I'm saying to you is that we're looking at competition. I'm getting y'all giving me competition. And I'm not poo-pooing that. Cincinnati, Green Bay, Philadelphia over the next 3 weeks, Pittsburgh after you go against the Browns, and Baltimore. And then a home game against Washington, which won't be easy. And then after that, Minnesota and the New York Giants. I understand. The reason why I want to show, I know it's sacrilegious for me to do this, the reason why I want to show the Dallas Cowboys respect is not because of their record. It's because of why. It's the fact that they are leaning on who they are. They have shown a propensity to run the football against anybody. And that's what they're doing. But now, if they were doing it because Dak Prescott was throwing footballs all over the place in 400-yard games, that would be different. But running the football and moving the chains, to me, they can do that with that offensive line against anybody.
No, I believe that they can run the football and move the chains. We've seen that. We're not. I agree with you that the things you pointed out about this team are true. I also believe they haven't beaten good opponents. And so for me, I need to see Dak Prescott do this under pressure. I need to see him perform when it counts against a team whose defense I respect. You look at the games that they've won defensively, the things that they've done. Church gets the interception against Cousins in the end zone. Morris Claiborne comes up.
Morris Claiborne deserved a game ball yesterday practically.
Morris Claiborne And the game ball he gets, though I love him, LSU guy, very happy. After they give it to him, he should walk to San Francisco and hand it to Blaine Gabbert.
Right.
Because you don't throw the ball before the sticks on 4th down and allow me to hit. When Torrey Smith hasn't beaten the inside, you lead him and allow him to go get the ball. Now, Morris has played very well.
I don't think he meant the throw where he threw. The throw went.
Right, but what I'm saying is, this team has played well until this point. So I can't say necessarily they haven't done the things for us to believe in who they have. But it's about who you play and can you beat who you play. And we will see that the next 3 weeks.
Real quick, I think what you point out that they're number 2 in rushing no matter what happens indicates that unless Ezekiel Elliott turns out to be a great running back, if he's just pretty good, they made a mistake in drafting him. Because no matter who they've put back there, they're number 2 in yards that you gain. What do you need Ezekiel Elliott there for when you're drafting up high? You go get a defensive impact player since that's where you're hurting.
And I'm saying I don't know if this is the week to say that after the last 2 weeks that he's had. Combined with the fact that if you got a 3-headed monster in him, Alfred Morris, when Darren McFadden comes back, if your signature is running behind that offensive line, then there's nothing wrong with buffering the position.
Good for Ezekiel Elliott. Happy for him.
But Max is calling it a mirage. Stephen A. says, no, Ryan uses fool's gold. But we want you guys to put in your 2 cents here. Is the Cowboys' success legit? Or is it a mirage? Vote on Twitter. We'll share those results a little later in the show. A week after suffering the franchise's worst loss in 27 years, Stephen A., the Steelers responded in a big way on Sunday night. Le'Veon Bell didn't skip a beat in his return from a 3-game suspension, violating the NFL's substance abuse policy, rushing 18 times for 144 yards. Big Ben Roethlisberger threw 5 TD passes for the 5th time in his career. Pittsburgh crushed Kansas City 43-14 on Sunday night. You must be feeling better, but okay.
I'm feeling much better.
Good.
I'm feeling much better. I didn't like having to go off about the Steelers after they lost to the Eagles. And I certainly don't like saying that my favorite coach in the world, Mike Tomlin, had a bad day.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
You just called him out to make sure
I didn't call him out. I just say he had a bad day. I called the players out. You know what I'm saying? The only reason I mentioned him because you the coach. I mean, your team didn't look like they wanted to play. And Mike T, as you well know, will openly, man, call it like you see it. That's why he rolls like that. He's a man's man. They didn't show up last week. They were an embarrassment and a disgrace to the Pittsburgh Steelers organization and tradition, and they deserve to be called out the way that they did. But they showed up last night and made Kansas City look like they looked a week earlier. That is the Steelers that I know. Those are the Steelers I expected to see. I am very proud on this day that they showed up and made amends for that debacle that they gave us the week before, and all is well with the world now, with the exception of when Brady comes to town. Other than that, I am feeling very, very good about my Steelers. Once again, I am proud that you showed up and reminded the world that you're actually football players, because they looked like a bunch of chumps the week earlier. And that is inexcusable. And you know I'm right. They did look like chumps against the Eagles. They didn't show up that game. That is not good. Losing is one thing. But not losing it was one thing, but not like that. Not like that. Okay.
Ryan, you know this organization inside and out. Do you want to jump in before I get into it?
Well, because he can adjudicate this debate. This is a Le'Veon Bell game. Le'Veon Bell has been the best running back when he's on the field in football, college or pro, anywhere in the world, by so much it's not worth talking about when he's on the field, and he did it again last night. Not only the 144 yards, but the 89 yards after contact, which is by far an NFL best this season. But it's not just the production, which is absolutely all-world elite. It's the fact that you have to account for him. They split him out wide. They put him in the slot, out of the backfield, catching passes, running the ball. He is one of these Marshall Faulk, LaDainian Tomlinson style players, and he's on that level wherever you want to put him. Maybe not ahead of Marshall Faulk, but he's up on that elite level I've ever seen doing all those things. And he's a player like, you know, when I go on about Odell Beckham Jr., it's not just the production, it's the amount of resources other teams' defenses have to put towards that guy. Or Lamar Jackson, we saw it again. So much of your game plan, so much of your resources on your team, which are finite, you don't have infinite resources on the field, have to go to stopping Lamar Jackson or accounting for him. It opens things up for other guys. You can say the same thing about Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, whether they're on good teams or bad teams, whether they're putting up the numbers or not. They make players around them better by the sheer fact that the other team has to game plan for that guy. That's what Le'Veon Bell did, and you saw the difference in the Steelers without him and with him, night and day, and the Chiefs are a good team.
Yeah.
So it's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely 100% right. Le'Veon Bell is the best running back in the NFL all around. It's not close. It's not a debate. It's nothing we probably even need to talk about here, because if anybody disagrees with you, then they don't know football. We saw what he brings to the table last night, the way they moved him around. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, the reason they won this game, the MVP of this game, they go by the name of Wentz, Sproles, Smallwood, Matthews.
Prep them up. Yep.
Barner. Because see what happens, right? When you're doing well and you feel real good, like me and my son had this issue, right? This summer, they were doing all these camps and he was getting all these interceptions. I'm like, hey, Jordan, you're not running. Jordan, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. But he was doing so well and everybody was talking about him so good, he just didn't want to listen to Dad. And then you get to the first jamboree and he doesn't play as well. And then we watch the film and he's not hustling. And so now I can talk to him any kind of way I want to and be as disrespectful as I want, because now you've shown me you don't listen and it has now affected you. That's what Todd Haley said.
But Ryan,
There's
Haley, more than that, I think, going on
No,
here.
there's not more than that. Todd, listen, this team in the last 5 games averages over 30 points a game in Pittsburgh.
No, what I'm
That's
saying
what they do.
What I'm saying is you said, I thought you were going here with that, and I agree with this point in terms of the ball going to Wentz or these guys. You're facing a similar offense. You just faced Peterson, now you're facing Andy Reid. There's a pretty good way to prep for Andy Reid is Peterson the week before.
Well, listen, Spencer Ware fumbles. Cam Hayward tips the ball and gets an interception, and it's down here for that. Marcus Peters, one of the best ball hawks in the league. If you watch his film, he's sloppy. He doesn't press well. He's a guy that always looks at the quarterback. You run by him with Sammy Coates earlier. Now you have a safety who decides to take an over route on a tight end instead of lean to Antonio Brown. That has nothing to do with scouting Doug Peterson because of Andy Reid. That just has to do with not playing sound defense and playing sound ball offensively. This is what happened. The Steelers were feeling really good about themselves coming into this season and the way they played in the first 2 weeks. Now, Coach Tomlin breaks them down and says, hey, we're going to watch this film as a team. Ben Roethlisberger, you're going to be accountable. Antonio Brown, you're going to be accountable. Defensively, Lawrence Timmons. Defensively, Mike Mitchell. We're going to talk about this together. I'm going to point out what you're doing in front of your teammates. So now, what do I say if I'm Ross Cockrell? What do I say if I'm Villanueva?
That's true. That's how Greg Popovich treated Tim Duncan all of those years. And because you could coach Tim Duncan, you could coach everybody else. I get what you're saying. But that's why I would give the credit to Mike Tomlin, because of that. Because after that debacle against Philadelphia, you go back to the film room, but you also and you motivate them and show them how they didn't show up because they were feeling themselves just a little bit too much.
If you take Le'Veon Bell off the field, that is not the same. I hear what you're saying. I'm not arguing against that point. What I'm saying is Le'Veon Bell makes the difference. You cannot defend anyone else on the Pittsburgh Steelers the same way because he's on the field. Not just that they can move him around, but the elite way he can play at every position you move him to.
We're not going to poo-poo anything about Le'Veon Bell because we know all around he's the best coming out of the backfield. We get that, but the flip side to it, he had a 1,361-yard season in 2014. Wasn't eligible to play for the playoffs, got injured again in that wild-card playoff loss to the Baltimore Ravens. Only played 6 games last year. Durability seems to be a question mark with him, and even though we won't question his ability, we will question and can question his availability when it counts. Because in his career thus far, when he's been needed most, whether it's for health reasons or other reasons, he hasn't been available, and he would need to be available in order for the Steelers to
and I will say this.
Cover him with a linebacker.
I'll say this. As good as Le'Veon Bell is, we saw what D'Angelo Williams has done as a backup well into his 30s. The person they can't lose is number 7.
No question.
And when number 7 plays like he plays last night, he's with the Bradys, he's with the Rodgers. And so though Le'Veon Bell is the important piece because of what he can do, you have to have been focused and protected, and that's what we saw last night.
But the question was, who deserves the most credit? And you're going Mike Tomlin, Le'Veon Bell, and
Eagles.
The
Eagles.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
They winning games every week.
I consider Tomlin and Eagles the same
thing,
actually.
yeah.
But all right, go ahead.
That means you lost all the way.
Thank you for your insight there.
That's the good version of number 7.
Coming up next, a year after a record-setting regular season, Ryan Fitzpatrick is more than struggling. Is it time for the Jets to make a change at quarterback? That conversation is next. Merrill Hodge will be here. Meanwhile, Russell Wilson was efficient despite playing with a sprained knee and dealing with an early East Coast kickoff, throwing 3 touchdown passes in the Seahawks' 27-17 victory over the Jets on Sunday. The Jets now fall to 1-3 as Fitzpatrick threw 3 more interceptions and became one of 5 players to have at least 10 interceptions in the first 4 games in the last 30 seasons. Merrill Hodge, how we doing?
What's going on?
So good to have you.
I feel like I'm in a hot seat right now.
No,
But I like this seat.
not at all.
I like this seat.
No,
For a couple reasons we'll get into.
You own that seat.
I've been able to pick this man's brain in like 15 years when I used to run into him in the hallway. That's right.
Good to see you.
Merrill, I do want to start with you. Is it time for Geno Smith?
Well, let me just say this. There's one thing that bothers coaches more than any other thing that you can do in football. It's the only stat I care about. I'm not a stat guy, but there is one, and if you gave it to him before every game, I could probably handicap this to a 90% tile of who's going to win. Turnovers. Like, you just can't turn the football over. And when you start doing that, I can just tell you this, coaches, it drives them nuts. Then you got to look at how it's being turned over. So we'll go to last week, just alone, Kansas City. Because I watched that tape. I haven't watched the tape from last week or Sunday's game, so I can speak more to the truth. There were 4 of those interceptions that you would just have, in the meeting, you'd have to say, what are you looking at? I mean, what are you doing? Why are you even trying it there? I mean, the defense doesn't even tell you to go there, and we have other options. And that would start becoming disturbing. You know, when Aaron Rodgers was struggling early in the year, and he's still not kind of out of that, and he kind of played like that last year. Anytime we get to this position, we start, you know, what is the problem? It usually comes down to this. You're just not executing the play. I'm going to tell you what actually makes Tom Brady awesome. Peyton Manning, when he played, they'll take a check down and a flat 6 times in a row if the defense gives it to them. That's what the defense gave me. I'm going to take that because eventually you don't want me to throw the check down. You don't want me to throw the flat, and now I sting you. So when you see Fitzpatrick playing to the way he's playing, now keep in mind, the evidence shifts more towards this style of play than, you know, the way he played last year, which last year kind of got blown out of proportion because, I mean, they did play well as a team, but he played good. He didn't play great. And I think people got caught up in thinking he played great and he was elite. But if you weighed the evidence shifts more to how he's playing right now. This shouldn't be a shock, but this is disturbing. And as a coaching staff, I think there's no question you got to think about making a change.
Geno Smith is the answer. And look, he is a hot and cold quarterback. It was even that way in college. Half the college season was like, oh, my God, like what we think about Lamar Jackson now practically. And then it was like, what happened to that guy? Is that the same season? I think of it as 2 different seasons. And as a pro, he's had some good games and some bad games. And at a certain point, you say, well, the jury's out on a certain guy. And then when he got hurt, unfortunately, in the fight, you thought in a bad place of your brain, but a realistic one, you said, no, this might be what the Jets fans want. It's an excuse to start Fitzpatrick, who's at least competent. But there's Fitzpatrick's brand, I think, as a quarterback, because he went to Harvard, is that he's smart. But in fact, he doesn't play a smart quarterback. He's like, as Ryan Clark says, he's a gunslinger without the gun. You know, like he's a risk taker. And I don't mind risk takers, even with the turnovers, Merrill. And I understand why coaches hate him, because turnover differential will usually give you your winner. But it's like a point guard in the NBA, especially when he's young. I want to see him champing at the bit. I want to see him trying to win. I'd rather have to pull the reins back a little bit than have a guy who's overly cautious, a guy who's trying to win the game instead of a guy who's trying not to lose it. I think there's more than just a semantic kind of difference there. But Fitzpatrick has only ever played well in his 2 walk years in his contract seasons. He hasn't played great. When the chip's on the line last year, they needed to win to go to the playoffs. He had this worst game of the season. And Geno Smith at least has shown you flashes where he has been good at times. And I thought, like, I've seen enough of Geno Smith. He's not going to be good. But I'm not 100% positive. Maybe there's an NFL quarterback in there. You look at Fitzpatrick, 14 picks in his last 7 games. Geno, bad Geno, right? 14 picks in his last 15 games. Played 1 game last year, Week 8 in Oakland, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. I mean, and that was the only game with Brandon Marshall ever on the Jets with Geno Smith. I think it's absolutely time. I don't think you need to wait anymore. Jets ain't going to win this year anyway with the Patriots in the division. Let's see what Geno's got.
I disagree with you. And the reason why I disagree with you is because Geno Smith, Ryan Fitzpatrick, is a product of Geno Smith. the way that they lost faith in Geno Smith was what led to Ryan Fitzpatrick arriving in New York to begin with. Let's also take into account the fact that even though he has been god-awful the last 2 weeks, 9 interceptions, all right, in 2 weeks, that is just abysmal. Let's just call it what it is. He's just got 4 touchdowns with 10 interceptions. He's got a rating of 57, a QBR of 56. He's only completing 55% of his passes. That's just pathetic. I mean, it's just pathetic. We get all of that. The flip side to it is that let's not let the Jets secondary off the hook. Let's not forget that Darrelle Revis, Buster Screen, okay, Gilchrist, and Pride, these boys, they ain't getting it done. They're not getting it done. And you got the Jets applied pressure to Russell Wilson yesterday. He was elusive. He made things happen, but they were breathing down his neck now. The bottom line is you got guys that were getting open. That puts more pressure on the offense to compensate, and that's more difficult. Ryan Fitzpatrick ain't made for that. He's just not made for that. We can't ignore what we're seeing on the other side of the ball for the New York Jets. We also have to remember that Geno Smith, even though I think he's got promise, he's got a chance, rather, to have promise, I think that it would be better if it was somewhere else. New York is so down on Geno that the second he goes out there, his 1 interception is tantamount to the 10 that Ryan Fitzpatrick throws. No one has faith in him in the Big Apple.
You know what the last thing he did?
No.
When he last start he had, Week 17,
yes,
2014, was his last start.
One game.
Was his last start.
Yep.
358 yards, 20 of 25, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I'm just saying, like, when last seen in action, he was good.
It's one game.
But you know what's going to happen the next time he starts?
Yeah.
No, you don't.
He's going to probably have
right. But we do know with Fitzpatrick ain't that good.
2 games, Max.
Here's how I look at both. What's kind of interesting, you mentioned Fitzpatrick's best years. Do you know what was the cog to all that? Chan Gailey, the offensive coordinator, who is there now. So what is interesting is what had Chan Gailey is in this meeting deciphering this, because he is seeing the worst of Fitzpatrick right now, where he's been able to manage him out of that. So actually his thought process and his input is probably going to be the difference in this. I would think that he's going to favor Fitzpatrick. I think he stays there because the evidence is clear on both of them. They are what they are. Geno Smith's not going to change. He's been like that throughout his college year, into the NFL. That's who he is. He's never going to change that. He will be just inconsistent. You have to accept that. Fitzpatrick, what I'm saying is, do you have a little hope, to your point, in that Chan Gailey's like, hey, listen,
little hope.
I can clean him up. Here's what we got to do. I got to have a heart-to-heart and a man-to-man thing.
Yep.
We got to start doing this from here on out. Here's our staples, and we're going to build from here. We got to get you back on track.
Also, remember, they're not running the ball that effectively. At least they didn't do so yesterday. And I love me some Todd Bowles, but defense is his signature.
If you're going to
lose, you can't have problems on the defensive side of the ball.
If you're going to lose anyway, at least do it with someone who may have a future. You know what Fitzpatrick is for sure. We don't know 100%.
You could argue neither one of them have a future, but let me just tell you this, they did get out-coached.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you this Seattle offensive line was as bad as they've been in 2 years, keep in mind, especially on the right side.
Right.
And you know what they did? They did schematics to get rid of the football quick to neutralize it. Got out-coached, too.
We got to leave it there, guys. Speaking of quarterback questions, Merrill, I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about our next subject. Andrew Luck, he ain't so lucky as of late. So
I can't wait to hear this.
Max's pick for MVP? What? Stick around for his defense of that statement coming up next.
I think the Colts are going to win the division. I think the only real weapon they have on either side of the ball is Andrew Luck. I think he's going to get credit for that. Win or lose, it's going to be a one-man show all year, and I think voters will give him credit so long as their record is decent. I think Luck will get them to the playoffs, put up monster numbers, and will be the leading candidate for MVP.
Max in black and white. He had Andrew Luck as his MVP before the season, but the Colts dropped to 1-3 after losing to the previously winless Jaguars in London on Sunday. Luck led Indianapolis on 3 fourth-quarter touchdown drives, but wasn't able to complete the comeback. He finished with 234 yards, 2 TDs, an interception, and was sacked 6 times in the loss. Max, does Luck still have your MVP vote?
If the MVP was given out today, it would go to Matt Ryan based on what's happened so far. If you want me to make a prediction, I'm not going to back off Luck yet. In spite of the fact that his team looks terrible and he is being criticized unfairly, I believe, although Merrill will clean us up on this. He'll adjudicate after years what Stephen A. and I have to say. I want to say something quickly. First, I'll give you some numbers, and then I want you to do a little thought experiment. The running game. Colts are 18th in yards per rush. If you take out rushes by Luck himself, they're 27th. He can run the football. He's still, despite the fact that he is one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, no running game, and no defense. He's 24th. The defense is 24th in total defense yards allowed and 30th in points allowed, okay? In spite of all that, his QBR is 9th overall in the NFL. He's the second most pressured quarterback in the league, and he's 9th in total QBR in the NFL. And the Colts have 9 drops, which is the 3rd most in football. And he's still 9th in total QBR in spite of everything I just told you. Here's the thing, and by the way, that division, who's running away? They think the Texans without J.J. Watt are some world beaters, and everyone else is 1-3, just like them. Here's the thought experiment I want to ask you to do. You think if the Falcons could start next season or in the middle of the season, you got to learn the playbook and everything, and they had a chance to swap right now, straight up, Matt Ryan for Andrew Luck, they wouldn't? Who wouldn't you trade for Andrew Luck? This guy is doing this, putting up those numbers, and by the way, when he took over a 2-14 team, 11-3, 11-3, 11-3, with nothing around him, he and Cam Newton have both, Cam Newton this year, it's back to what it was, become underrated quarterbacks because they have nothing around them, and the whole game plan of the other team every single week is stop that guy, and still they can't stop that guy. If you look at the losses this year, they were in that Broncos game late on the road. Everything else has been a one-score loss. Yes, I think Andrew Luck can still win the MVP this year if the Colts make the playoffs.
I think you're smoking something. And the reason why I think you're smoking something is because you're not thinking about 2 key things going on here. Number one, like you pointed out, but you didn't delve into it deeply enough, all the deficiencies that are around Andrew Luck, whether it's an offensive line, whether it's the lack of a running game, whether it's a defense that's highly suspect, whether it's Pagano and Grigson and their relationship and their ability to come together. And when are we going to talk about Grigson? Because I do understand that Pagano's the head coach, and he has to take some hits, particularly with a defensive background, with there being so many questions about their defense, particularly the first couple of weeks of this season. But then we have to think about Grigson, and we have to think about Irsay. Irsay is the guy that decided not to get rid of either of them, to bring them back together, to have this whole big celebration as if that, you know what, we won the Super Bowl championship, and now we're not going to sabotage.
On
we're going to keep
long-term
everybody.
deals.
We're going to keep these guys together, okay? What has Grigson done? There have been, you gave up a first-round pick to acquire Trent Richardson. Let's not forget that, okay? That wasn't the only mistake that he's made. He's made others in free agency. He's made others with the draft. He finally went the right route in drafting Kelly to improve your offensive line. But it's 5 guys that play that position. One guy ain't gonna be able to do but so much. At the end, Merrill, my position with Max has always been this. You're talking about Luck because you're thinking about Luck's greatness. You're not thinking about the parts around him, how deficient they're going to be, how they're going to come up short in terms of wins and losses, and nobody's going to give league MVP honors, no matter how great the talent is, to a guy playing on a subpar team that can't even make the playoffs, which is what Indianapolis is on the verge of not doing, making the playoffs. That was my argument. It has nothing to do with Andrew Luck, because I believe in Andrew Luck. But you haven't protected him for years. He got sacked 6 times just to, you go have him fly across the pond just to get beat up when he could have stayed at home and got beat up like that.
And he's got a bad shoulder.
This is what their problem is. That's why there's no way in hell he was going to win MVP, and it should have never been considered.
Well, the record alone, nobody ever considering. Now, that doesn't minimize, the kind of skill set he has, but his record right now, if they continue like that, they won't forget about it.
That's why the division is like that. Yeah. They're all 1-3, except for the Texans.
They still won't consider him. The record will not allow them to consider him. Now, you go back to this is why I could argue John Elway was the greatest quarterback to ever play, because he could take inferior talent, flaws that we had across the board, and he could offset them. That's really, you took a couple teams to the Super Bowl, even though they got hammered, you put another quarterback there, they probably don't even go 8-8. Now, that being said, with Andrew Luck, a lot of the issues that they have, and you could talk about how they're asking him to play offense too, quite honestly, because when you talk about their offensive line having issues, it's not just them. I mean, you got to incorporate the tight end, and you got to incorporate the running back, because you know what they're doing? They're keeping all 7 guys in at times. It's kind of like what they do for Cam Newton. Cam, we want to protect you, okay? That doesn't mean we're not going to get everybody out, but the guys we're going to get out, which keep in mind, their perimeter players now are about as freakish as there is in the NFL, too. So let's not say that he don't have anything, because their perimeter players are fast, explosive, dynamic. We just got to give him time. So, I'm watching the game yesterday. And one of the problems going into it that we did on SportsCenter is that they don't work well together. You know, all four of us have to block 4 people up there. Well, these 4 guys are going to cross all different ways. We got to see it the same way. Well, they don't see it the same way. You got the tackle in the back going to one guy. Meanwhile, we got inside linebacker that is obvious to everybody on planet Earth. Why wouldn't you block him? They just do that too many times, 5 or 6 times a game. San Diego, it cost them 6 points because he got a fumble off of it. But then going to one other layer when you think about coaching and watching him, is they do a lot of their run action where he turns his back. Well, you already got problems up front. Now I'm robbing you of an opportunity to see things coming. So when you flip your head around, you're already in trouble and you didn't even have a chance to get out of it. So there's all these layers that are compounding the problem. And then, listen, when you get to the playoffs, Luck has not played his best. In fact, he's probably had his worst games in the playoff, unfortunately. I think he's a
That's
rare
because
type.
he's doing what you said Elway did. He's covering up for the flaws of his team. It's exposed in the playoffs.
Right.
Now, real quick,
Not all the time.
look at the schedule. If they have the Bears, the Texans, and the Titans coming up. If they wind up by then 4-3, or even if they lose one of those games and go 3-4, those are all winnable games. Let's say they're 3-4, they win 2 of their next 3. And they're right in the thick of things in the South. And Luck has some huge games, which he's going to have to for them to win. Bunch of touchdowns, bunch of yards. He's not in the MVP conversation?
You won't get 1 vote.
It's not going to sniff.
Because this whole division is going to be about 8-8 when you're done, and everybody will disrespect it. The argument will be there, why are they in the playoffs?
These are the things that I tried to tell them at the beginning.
We will see by the end of this season.
You stay strong where you are. You stay where you are, bro.
Appreciate your honesty.
I'm proud of him for sticking to his point. I'm proud of him for sticking to his point. Congratulations with that. I praise you for that.
Shaky.
Would they take Luck instead of Matt Ryan on the Falcons, yes or no?
We have to go to break.
Based on age, yeah, because Matt Ryan's up in years.
They're the same age?
Matt Ryan
Underestimated.
Coming up next, Monday Night Football tonight features the New York Football Giants and the Purple People Eaters. Last year, the Vikes defense dominated Eli Manning, snagging 3 interceptions. Can they repeat that performance tonight? We shall discuss. Our Week 4 Monday Night Football matchup features Eli Manning and the New York Football Giants taking on the undefeated Vikings. Tune in at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Our coverage begins with Monday Night Countdown at 6, also streaming live on Watch ESPN. What do you gentlemen expect from tonight?
Look, the Giants should probably lose tonight. They're going to Minnesota. They don't play well there. Zimmerman's defense is great, maybe the best in the game, along with the Broncos, you'd have to say. And Eli is turnover prone. He's pick prone. However, Eli also gives them a chance to win, Stephen A., because he's like the anti-Alex Smith. It's not all about check down and playing it conservatively, which might make him a better quarterback in many respects. Eli's not afraid to lose.
So what are you saying?
He tries to win. So Eli's gunslinger mentality, combined with the fact that Shepard is going to, over this course of the season, is going to loosen Odell up a little bit because they're going to have to pay attention to him too, means the Giants have a shot. They should lose. They got a shot.
So basically you pick both.
I'm picking the Vikings.
All right. Thank you so much, because I don't know. I didn't know what you were doing there. I'm going with the Giants as well, okay?
Going with the Giants?
I'm sorry, I meant the Vikings. I apologize.
Freudian slip.
No, it is a Freudian slip. It is a Freudian slip because the damn sure ain't the Giants tonight.
Big Blue, I
don't have a lot of faith in what they're going to be able to do offensively or defensively. I think that it'll be a tight game, but I think that Minnesota's too tough for them, defensively, and they're going to neutralize them. And on the defensive side of the ball, I'm just not sure. Even though the Vikings don't have Adrian Peterson being at home with Sam Bradford and Stephon Diggs hooking up, I think it'll be tight, but I think Minnesota will find a way to pull out. I think it's going to be something along the lines of 23-20.
No Vereen, no Jennings tonight either, so the Giants' running game is hurting.
Eli greater than Sam Bradford. We asked you guys to weigh in on our Twitter poll. Is the Cowboys' success a mirage? We are right down the middle. 49% said legit. 51% said mirage. The
Hold
country
everyone.
split.
Cowboys are going to beat San Francisco on the road. Giants will lose to Minnesota, and I'll have to hear it from Cowboys fans. Just wait. Just wait.
Yeah, and then this Packers next week, so we shall see. Stephen A., how do you feel about 51% said a mirage?
They can say whatever they want.
You don't care what the people say.
I never care about what they think. I think what I think.
You just care about those that matter.
I think about what I think.
Your close inner circle.
I don't worry about that.
Yeah,
It's about me.
I get it.
It's
Bye,
about
everyone.
me.
Enjoy the game.